Sometimes the loudest "I'm done" is the silence they never saw coming. My friends, that's where everything truly starts to change. You think the power is in the big speech, the long text, the late-night call where you pour your heart out. But the real plot twist in their story, and yours, begins the moment you say nothing at all. That's when your silence starts working on their ego, and slowly, quietly, regret begins to grow in places they can't hide from. Hey folks, imagine this. You're standing in front of a door you've been knocking on for months. Your hands hurt, your voice is tired, and the person on the other side, they hear you. They just keep turning the music up. One day, instead of knocking louder, you simply walk away. You don't slam the door. You don't scream. You just take your hand back, put it in your pocket, and leave. That quiet decision, that's your silence. And that's the exact moment their house finally starts to feel empty. Silence, my friends, is like turning off the Wi-Fi in someone's life. As long as you were there, they were getting free emotional internet. Validation, comfort, attention, all unlimited. The day you unplug and walk away, everything they took for granted starts buffering. The funny thing, on the outside, they'll act like nothing happened. On the inside, every little memory of you loads in slow motion. We've been sold a lie. If you don't chase, you'll lose them. If you stay silent, they'll forget you. No, the truth is the complete opposite. The more you chase, the more you teach them that you will accept less. The more you explain, the more they learn they never have to understand you. As one quote says, if you always rescue them from the fire, they will never learn to stop playing with matches. Your silence is not cruelty. It's you stepping out of the fire and saying, burn your own lesson now. Let's add a little humor here, because you know this feeling. You're staring at your phone like it's a crystal ball. You refresh the chat, check your messages, reread your last text 5 times, like maybe the words will magically change. Your phone starts to feel like a slot machine that never pays out. And deep down, you know this isn't peace. This isn't love. This is a bad casino for your self-worth. Stoicism teaches us something powerful. You don't control their actions, their feelings, or their ego. You only control your response. And sometimes the strongest response is no response. Not a passive, I don't care, but an active, I care too much about myself to keep begging. Your silence triggers regret because it removes their favorite illusion, that you'll always be there no matter how they treat you. When you stop texting first, when you stop chasing, when you stop rewriting your worth just to fit into their comfort zone, something inside them feels that shift. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but as life gets quieter, your absence gets louder. So as we move through this video, stay with me. We're going to break down exactly how your silence pulls them back without chasing, what happens inside their mind when you step back, and how to use this silence not as a weapon, but as your protection and your power. And right now, I want you to claim this in the comments. Silence is my power. Type it out. Let your mind see it. Let your heart feel it. And if this already speaks to something inside you, hit that like button and subscribe, because we're just getting started. Stay with me. Number 1. The moment you stop chasing, where the power quietly flips. Nothing changes faster than the way they treat you the day you finally stop running after them. My friends, let that sink in for a second, because this is the part nobody prepares you for. Not the breakup, not the argument, not the last cold message. The real shock hits on the day you decide, I'm not chasing anymore. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't come with applause. It comes in a small, silent moment where your heart is shaking, your hand is hovering over your phone, and for the first time, you pull back instead of reaching out. Folks, picture this. Imagine you're in a race you never signed up for. You're running, sweating, out of breath, chasing someone who keeps looking back just to make sure you're still behind them, but never once slowing down to walk beside you. At some point, your legs start to burn, your chest gets tight, and something inside you whispers, "What if I just stop?" Not trip, not fall, just stop. In that one moment, the whole race ends, not because they crossed the finish line, but because you decided you're done running in circles. That's what the first step of silence feels like. It's not calm at first. It's terrifying. Your mind starts throwing questions at you like darts. What if they forget me? What if they never message again? What if my silence is the reason they move on for real? You've been trained to believe that if you're not doing something, you're losing. That if your phone isn't lighting up, you're failing. That if you're not sending that just checking in text, they'll replace you with someone who does. But here's the truth they never taught us growing up. Chasing doesn't make you valuable, it just makes you tired. Stoicism says, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You can't control whether they message you, you can't control whether they regret losing you, but you can control whether you keep handing them your energy for free, like an open bar for someone who doesn't even say thank you. Let's be real for a moment. You didn't chase because you're weak. You chased because you cared. You chased because you thought love meant trying harder. You chased because somewhere along the way, someone taught you, if you don't fight for it, it means you don't love them enough. That's one of the biggest lies you've ever been sold. Fighting for something is only noble when the other person is fighting too. When you're the only one bleeding, that's not romance. That's self-abandonment. Think of yourself like a phone battery, my friend. Every message, every overlong explanation, every late-night paragraph you send to someone who gives you one-word replies, it's like running 10 apps at once. No wonder you feel drained. They plug into you whenever they're bored, lonely, or need a little boost to their ego. Your attention became their portable charger. But when you choose silence, it's like finally unplugging the cord. At first, you're scared their screen will go dark and they'll throw away the phone. But what actually happens is this. For the first time, they notice how much they depended on that power source. You might be asking yourself, if I stop responding fast, if I stop texting first, won't they think I don't care? Here's the twist. They already acted like you didn't matter when you were chasing. They already behaved like your emotions were optional when you were available. Your silence doesn't create disrespect. It just stops covering it up. When you stop chasing, you're not saying, I never cared. You're saying, I care, but not at the cost of myself. It's difficult, I know. It feels like standing on the edge of a cliff with your eyes closed. You've built a habit of reacting. They poke, you jump, they disappear. You send long essays. They go distant, you go softer. Now you're breaking that pattern, and the brain hates losing patterns. It will try to drag you back with fear. Just text once, just check their story, just send a little emoji. It's not a big deal. But you and I both know it is a big deal. Because every little reach out is how you've stayed stuck in the same emotional loop. There's a quote I love. If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. Think about how many times you've paid with your peace just to keep their presence. How many nights you lied awake, replaying their words. How many mornings you checked your phone before you even checked in with yourself. When you stop chasing, you're not losing them. You're finally refusing to keep losing you. Think of it like this, folks. You've been the TV on in the background of their life. Always playing, always available. They don't even notice how much they rely on the noise until one day, click, you turn it off. At first, the silence feels strange for both of you. For you, it feels like emptiness. For them, it feels like nothing. But as hours turn into days, that quiet becomes heavy. For them, it becomes awareness. For you, it becomes space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to remember you are more than how someone else treats you. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable in the beginning. You will want to break the silence 100 times. You'll type the message and erase it. You'll stare at their name and feel your chest tighten. You'll wonder, what if I'm making a mistake? But my friend, the real mistake was believing your worth depended on their response. Silence is you correcting that error. The moment you stop chasing is not the moment you stop loving. It's the moment you start loving yourself correctly. You're still allowed to miss them. You're still allowed to have memories. You're still allowed to feel sad. Stoicism isn't about becoming a robot. It's about not letting those feelings drag you back into a place where your peace is constantly on fire. So right now, I want you to see this shift clearly. When you stop chasing, the power doesn't disappear. It changes hands. The control they had over your mood, over your day, over your sense of worth, that control slowly starts coming back to you. That's why this step is so scary, because you're not only letting them go a little, you're letting go of the version of yourself that lived on their approval. But that is exactly where your transformation begins. The world won't clap for this. They won't see it. They won't know about the message you didn't send, the breakdown you survived, the voice you ignored that said, just one more text. But you will know, and deep down, even if they never admit it, they will feel the difference too. End this first step with courage, not fear. You are not disappearing. You are resetting. You are not punishing them. You are protecting you. You are not closing the book on love. You're closing the chapter on begging. If this is the season you're in right now, I want you to declare it to yourself and to the world. Go to the comments and write, I stop chasing now. Show yourself you mean it. Show your future self. Let the world see the moment you chose yourself. And stay with me, because next we're going to step into their mind and talk about what really starts happening on their side when your messages stop showing up. Number 2, what silence does inside their mind, even when they pretend not to care. Some people don't realize what you were to them until your absence starts speaking louder than your presence ever did. My friends, this is the part you almost never get to see. You see the posts, the stories, the laughing pictures, the living my best life act. You see the surface and your mind tells you a painful story. They've moved on. They don't think about me. My silence didn't touch them at all. But silence doesn't work on the surface first. It starts quietly, deep inside their mind, in places their pride can't control. Imagine their life like a busy cafe, folks. Music playing, people talking, cups clinking, constant noise. When everything is loud, it's easy to ignore the one seat that's suddenly empty. They tell themselves, it's fine, someone else will sit there. But as time passes, the cafe gets quieter. The crowd thins out. The day slows down. And now that one empty chair starts to bother them. They remember who used to sit there. Your laugh, your patience, the way your presence made the whole place feel softer, safer. That's what your silence does. It doesn't scream. It just leaves a space they thought they'd never miss. At first, they are confident. They tell themselves a comfortable story. They'll text again. They always do. They can't stay mad. They can't stay away. Their ego nods along, satisfied. For a while, it even looks true. Days pass and they feel fine. They distract themselves with work, friends, scrolling, talking to new people, anything that keeps attention off that empty chair. But feelings are like shadows. You can outrun them during the day, but when everything gets dark, they always catch up. Your silence shows up in small, ordinary moments. They're at a red light, and their mind suddenly pulls up a memory of you sitting in the passenger seat, making some random joke. They're in the shower, and a phrase you always said floats back into their head. They hear a song, and without warning, your face hits them like a flash. Their first reaction: push it away. Nope, I'm not going there. I'm good. I'm over it. But the subconscious doesn't care about ego. It keeps sending these little reminders on repeat. They might check your profile by mistake. They might hover over your name in their chat list and quickly scroll away. They might open your old messages, read a few lines, then lock their phone like they just touched something too hot. That's not indifference, that's conflict. The heart quietly whispering, "You lost something real," while the ego shouts back, "No, we're fine. Don't feel that. Don't admit that." And the funny thing, folks, is that they will often turn your silence into a performance on their side. To prove to themselves that they're okay, they start overacting. Extra stories, extra selfies, extra nights out, extra "look how happy I am without you" energy. If you've ever seen someone laugh just a little too loud or post just a little too much right after leaving something real, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's not pure joy. That's noise. That's distraction dressed up as confidence. Here's another metaphor for you. Think of you as the "do not disturb" mode that used to protect their chaos. When you were in their life, they could unload, complain, vent, and still feel seen. You were their emotional reset button. They didn't realize it, but you were the calm in their storm. When your silence enters, it's like turning that feature off. Now, every notification of their own choices comes through loud and clear. They can't mute the guilt. They can't silence the memories. They can't block the awareness that they had something rare and treated it like it was nothing. And you know what's wild? Many of them will swear they don't miss you, not even to others, to themselves. They'll rewrite history. It wasn't that deep. We weren't that serious. They were too sensitive anyway. That's their ego trying to protect itself from regret. Because to admit they miss you, to admit your silence is heavy, means admitting they played a role in you walking away. And most people don't like seeing themselves as the villain in their own story. But time has a way of peeling layers away. Little by little, their favorite distractions stop working the same. The nights out feel emptier. The new conversations feel shallow. The laughs feel performed. They start to notice that they felt more understood during a quiet conversation with you than they feel in a whole weekend surrounded by people now. That's when silence stops being no big deal and starts feeling like a loss. You might think, if they feel all this, why don't they just reach out? Fear, my friend. The same fear that once sat in your chest now sits in theirs. Fear of rejection, fear of humility, fear of hearing what they deep down already know, that they hurt you, that they lost something they can't replace easily. So instead of a full apology, you might get small, confusing signals. A random like, a short message, a song sent with no context. Those are not signs that your silence didn't work. They're signs that it's working so well it's shaking their comfort zone. The lie your mind tells you is, they don't care because they're quiet. The reality is, their silence is not empty. It's full of things they're afraid to say. Stoicism reminds us, you are not responsible for what they do with their awareness. You are only responsible for how you carry yourself while they figure it out. So, instead of using their online show to measure your worth, start seeing it for what it really is, a layer, not the truth. The truth is, in the moments you'll never witness, them replaying your last conversation at 2 a.m., them wondering why your energy feels so far away, them realizing that other people don't make them feel what you made them feel so effortlessly. Let that give you peace, not power trips. Because this isn't about revenge, it's about understanding that you were never forgettable. They just took too long to understand your value. Your silence didn't erase you, it highlighted you. If this part hit something inside you, If you've been torturing yourself thinking they don't feel anything at all, go to the comments and write, "They feel my absence." Show yourself that you believe your energy mattered, even if their ego is still pretending it didn't. And stay with me, because next we're going to dive into the war between their ego and their emotions once your silence refuses to move. Number 2. What silence does inside their mind, even when they pretend not to care. People don't miss you when you're gone. They miss you when their distractions stop working. My friends, that's where the real story begins. Not on their feed, not in their group chats, but in those quiet, unfiltered moments when life finally stops shouting and starts whispering. On the outside, they might look perfectly fine, smiling in photos, posting stories, laughing a little too loud with people you've never seen before. But silence doesn't do its work on the outside first. It starts deep inside, where their ego can't post filters. Folks, imagine their mind like a busy city. Lights, cars, noise, notifications, people coming and going. When things first end with you, they crank the volume up even more. New people, new chats, new routines, new late-night distractions. Anything to avoid the one street in that city that has your name on it. They tell themselves they're moving on, but really they're just building more traffic so they don't have to walk down that quiet road of truth. But here's what silence does. Slowly, the city starts to empty. The parties end. The calls stop. They put their phone down. The lights dim. And there, in the middle of that once noisy city, your absence starts to echo. Not as a dramatic movie moment, but as a little tug. A stray thought, a random memory, I wonder what they're doing. That small tug. That's your silence planting seeds. They might tap on your profile by accident. They might scroll past your name and pretend they didn't see it. They might see a picture of a place you both went and quickly look away like it's nothing. But you and I know, if it was nothing, they wouldn't have to pretend so hard. Silence is funny like that. It doesn't shout, "You miss them." It just quietly turns things they once ignored into things they can't completely escape. Their ego, of course, hates this. It's still trying to run the show. It tells them, "You're good, you're better off." They're probably still thinking about you anyway. So they keep performing. New pictures, forced smiles, dramatic quotes about healing they haven't actually started yet. But performances are only strong when there's an audience. When they're alone, there's no one left to clap for the act. That's when your silence sits down next to them like a mirror and says, "Okay, now let's tell the truth." They start remembering things they never gave you credit for when you were there. The way you listened when they were overwhelmed. The way your presence made a bad day feel survivable. The way you understood their moods without them having to explain. Those things didn't feel rare to them back then because they were used to having them. Just like people don't notice clean air until the room gets stuffy, they didn't notice how much your energy cleared their chaos until it was gone. You might be sitting on your bed right now thinking, "They probably don't think about me at all. They look so happy. They moved on so quickly." But let's break that lie. Happiness that needs to be posted 24/7 is almost never peace. Sometimes the loudest "I'm fine" is just someone trying to convince themselves they didn't lose something important. If they truly didn't care, they wouldn't need the performance. Real indifference is quiet. It doesn't need an audience. There's a quote I like. "Regret doesn't arrive with a knock. It slips in through the cracks." That's exactly what your silence does. It finds its way into the thin spaces they can't seal off. Standing in the shower, sitting in traffic, lying there at 2 a.m. when the nostalgia playlist they put on for vibes accidentally plays a song that reminds them of you. Suddenly, their chest feels heavy. Not because you messaged them, but because you didn't. They're not going to admit this to anyone, of course. Pride won't allow it. They'll say, "We just grew apart." They'll say, "It wasn't that deep." They'll say, "We weren't really right for each other anyway," and yet they keep revisiting your chat thread. They keep hovering over your name. They keep wondering if you'd still answer if they popped up. That wondering is the early form of regret. It's the mind trying to reopen a door the ego slammed shut. Remember, you used to be predictable. You would always reply. You would always reach out eventually. You would always be the one to break the tension. Now, you don't. Your silence has broken their script. They don't know their lines anymore. They don't know what to expect. And when the human mind doesn't know what to expect, it gets uncomfortable. That discomfort is where reflection is born. Some of you think that because they aren't crawling back, they don't feel anything. But not everyone processes regret with big gestures. A lot of people sit in quiet torture, replaying moments they can't admit mattered. They remember the time they brushed off your feelings, the message they left unanswered, the plans they cancelled because they assumed you'd understand. Those memories don't stab all at once. They poke, slowly, over time, until even their ego starts to wince. And while all of this is happening inside them, you might think nothing is happening at all. That's the crazy part. Silence is a delayed reaction. You planted the seed when you stopped chasing. Time and stillness are watering it. You just can't see the roots yet. This is why it's so important not to break your silence just because you get scared they're forgetting you. They're not forgetting, they're processing. They're wrestling with a strange new reality. Life without the person who made them feel emotionally safer than their pride ever did. So, my friends, don't underestimate what your silence is doing behind the scenes. Not in a manipulative way, but in a real, human way. You've removed the comfort they misused. You've taken your energy back from someone who assumed it would always be there. You've forced life to show them the truth you tried to explain with words they never fully heard. Right now, I want you to remind yourself of this simple reality. Just because you can't see their regret doesn't mean it's not growing. Your absence has weight. Your silence has volume. Your decision to stop chasing is not invisible. It's felt in ways they may never put into words. If this spoke to you, if a part of you is starting to believe that your silence is not weak but wise, go to the comments and write, "My silence speaks loud." Show yourself. Show your future self. Show to the world around you that you're starting to trust the power of not reacting. And stay with me, because next we're going to go even deeper into this inner battle, the fight between their ego and their real emotions, once your voice is no longer there to comfort them. Number 3, ego versus emotion, their inner war once you go quiet. The heart whispers the truth, but the ego puts its hand over its mouth. My friends, this is exactly what starts happening inside them the moment your silence settles in. From the outside, they seem fine. Maybe even better than fine. They're joking, they're posting, they're busy, but on the inside, there's a fight going on that nobody sees, a quiet civil war between what they feel and what their ego will allow them to admit. Folks, imagine their mind like a courtroom. On one side, you have emotion sitting there, a little tired but honest, saying, "I miss them. I felt safe with them. I didn't realize how much they mattered." On the other side, you have ego standing tall in a suit, banging its fist on the table, shouting, "Overruled, you don't need them, you're better off, don't be weak." And the judge? That's their pride, leaning back in the chair, pretending to be neutral while secretly rooting for the ego to win. At first, the ego dominates. It always does. It hates being wrong. It hates losing control, so it starts building stories to protect itself. They were too emotional. They were asking for too much. We were never that serious anyway. These stories are like armor. The more they repeat them, the safer they feel from the sting of regret. But armor might protect you from the outside. It also makes it harder to feel what's happening inside. The problem for them is, your silence doesn't argue with any of their stories. It doesn't show up in their inbox to say, "That's not true, I was consistent." It doesn't send a 3-paragraph message explaining your side again. It doesn't come in crying, begging, or convincing. And that lack of reaction is exactly what exposes the cracks in their narrative. Ego needs a sparring partner. It needs someone to push against so it can feel strong. When you were chasing, apologizing, over-explaining, their ego got to sit there like a king on a throne. You accidentally became the mirror that made them feel more powerful. Now, with your silence, you've taken that mirror away. They're left faced with their own reflection, without your reactions to validate it. Think of it this way, folks. They're standing in front of a funhouse mirror. Ego has been telling them, "You're taller, bigger, better, always right." Your chasing kept that mirror distorted. It made their flaws look smaller and their importance look bigger. The day you go silent, it's like the mirror snaps back to normal. Suddenly, they don't look as heroic in the story as they thought. The things they did don't look so harmless. The way they dismissed you doesn't look so justified. Emotion starts quietly pointing at the reflection, saying, "See, we messed up." They feel that. Maybe not in full sentences at first, but in waves. A sudden heaviness in the chest. A weird, sad feeling they can't place. A random memory of you they can't shake off. Emotion keeps tapping them on the shoulder. "You didn't handle that right. You pushed away someone real." Ego spins around and says, "Shut up, we had our reasons." And the war continues. This is why they might start acting a little off. One day they're posting like they're on top of the world. The next, they're quieter, distracted, a little distant from everyone. They're not just busy, they're battling themselves. It's not just about missing you. It's about fighting the part of themselves that knows they made choices based on pride, not wisdom. They might even joke about you with their friends, downplay what you had, or act like you were the one who was too much. That's ego trying to keep control of the storyline. The louder they talk, the more they're trying to drown out the uncomfortable truth emotion keeps bringing up. Real confidence doesn't need to discredit other people. Only a fragile ego feels the need to rewrite history to avoid guilt. You might be wondering, if this war is going on, why don't they just admit it? Why not say, "I miss you, I was wrong"? Because for a lot of people, that level of honesty feels like death. Admitting they were wrong means facing their own immaturity. Admitting they hurt you means facing their own lack of empathy. Admitting they need you means facing their fear of dependence. Ego is terrified of all of that. It equates vulnerability with defeat. But here's the beautiful part, my friends. Your silence keeps feeding emotion, not ego. Without you reacting, their ego gets nothing to feed on. No new drama, no new validation, no fresh proof that you're still there if they want you. Every day you stay quiet, emotion gets a little louder inside them. It starts saying, "We actually cared, we felt safe, we threw away something meaningful." And ego, no matter how loud it screams, can't fully erase that. Stoicism teaches that real strength is not in controlling others, but in facing ourselves. Your silence forces them to look inward, whether they want to or not. They might fight it, they might resist, but they can't fully escape it, because deep down, emotion is stubborn too. It remembers the calm you brought, it remembers the comfort, it remembers the way being with you felt different than what they're pretending to enjoy now. So while you're sitting there thinking, "They don't care, they've moved on," understand this. The game isn't happening on the screen. It's happening in their chest and their head. Ego is trying to keep its crown. Emotion is quietly sharpening the truth. That's not your fight to join anymore. You've fought enough. Your job now is not to prove they're wrong. It's to protect your peace while their inner storm slowly exposes what they refused to see when you were available. You're not abandoning them. You're letting life teach them in a way your words never could. If this resonated with you, if you can feel that some of the battle now has shifted off your shoulders and onto theirs, I want you to write this in the comments. Their ego is not my burden. Show yourself you're done carrying what isn't yours. Show your future self. Show the world that you're choosing emotional freedom over chasing someone's approval. And stay with me, because next we're going to uncover how your old reactions used to feed their comfort and why your new silence changes everything. Number 3, ego versus emotion, their inner war once you go quiet. The ego would rather lose a good person than admit it was wrong. My friends, that's the brutal truth we don't like to say out loud. When you finally go silent, it's not that they suddenly stop feeling anything. It's that their ego steps in like a loud security guard, trying to block every real emotion at the door. On one side, their heart is whispering, "You lost something real." On the other side, their ego is shouting, "We're fine, we don't need them." And that tug of war is exactly what starts the storm inside them once your voice disappears. Folks, imagine their inner world like a courtroom. On one side sits emotion, quiet but honest, holding all the memories of you. On the other side sits ego, loud, dramatic, banging the table, determined to win the case, not with truth, but with pride. Emotion stands up and says, "We felt safe with them. We were understood. We messed up." Ego jumps in, "No, no, no. We were bored. They were too much. We outgrew them. Case dismissed." And the judge? That's their mind, stuck in the middle, confused and exhausted, trying to keep both sides happy. When you go silent, emotion finally gets a chance to speak more. There's no new argument to distract it, no new message from you to twist, no fresh drama to hide behind. Emotion starts replaying the nights you stayed up listening, the times you forgave what you shouldn't have had to forgive, the way you made them feel seen when they were pretending nothing was wrong. Ego hates that. Ego doesn't want to feel guilty. Ego doesn't want to feel stupid. Ego doesn't want to admit, "I pushed away someone who actually cared." So what does it do? It starts running its old script. They were needy. They were dramatic. They were too sensitive. It dresses up disrespect as boundaries and selfishness as self-care. They tell their friends, "We just weren't compatible," when the truth is, they weren't ready to face themselves in the mirror you held up. And now that mirror, your presence, your messages, your comforting words, is gone. The reflection is even harder to escape. You might be thinking, if there's really a war inside them, why don't they show it? Why don't they reach out? Why don't they just admit they were wrong? Because admitting they were wrong doesn't just mean apologizing to you. It means apologizing to themselves. It means facing all the times they chose ego over honesty. It means accepting, "I had someone who loved me and I treated them like they'd never leave." That's a heavy sentence for a fragile ego to carry. Here's another way to picture it. Think of their ego as a bad GPS. Even when it takes them down the wrong road, it refuses to admit recalculating. It will keep sending them in circles before it ever says, "Turn back, you missed your exit." Your silence is what exposes that. Before, they could justify everything because you were still there. If I really hurt them, they wouldn't still be texting me. If they were really done, they wouldn't still answer every time. Your reactions gave their ego proof it wasn't the problem. But when you go quiet, that proof disappears. Now their GPS is spinning with no signal, and deep down they know they're lost. This is why you'll see such strange behavior from them sometimes. One day they're acting cold, almost arrogant. The next day they're soft, liking an old photo or sending a random message. That's not consistency, that's conflict. Ego says, we're over it. Emotion says, no, we're not. Ego says, we don't care. Emotion says, then why do we keep looking at their page? That back and forth isn't about you being confusing, it's about them being at war with themselves. We're often told another lie. If they cared, they'd come back immediately. Not always. Some people care deeply, but are too controlled by their ego to show it. They'll sit in silent suffering rather than risk hearing you say, no, you can't come back. They fear rejection more than they regret their own actions. So they'd rather live with that quiet ache than take responsibility. It's not healthy, but it's real. You can't fix that war for them. That's the hardest part to accept. You can't step in and say, look, your ego is lying to you. Your emotions are telling the truth. You used to try that. You explained, you reasoned, you cried, you argued, and none of it landed because ego doesn't listen to evidence, it listens to comfort. Your silence removes that comfort. For the first time, ego has to sit with the discomfort it created. But here's the beautiful twist, my friends. While their ego is fighting for control, your silence is quietly fighting for you. Every day you don't break, every day you don't send that long message, every day you don't reopen the door they slammed, you're proving something powerful to yourself. You're proving that your emotions matter too, that your peace isn't negotiable, that your value doesn't drop just because someone was too proud to hold it gently. Will they all break through their ego and admit the truth? No. Some people will stay locked in pride forever. They will feel the regret, but never name it. They'll feel the loss, but never apologize for it. That's their path, not yours. Your job is not to wait at the door of their ego until it decides to open. Your job is to walk your own path, knowing that your silence is not about punishing them, it's about freeing you. So when your mind starts playing tricks on you, maybe they never cared. Maybe I meant nothing. Maybe my silence doesn't matter at all. Remember this. The louder their ego acts, the more it's trying to cover what emotion already knows. Their inner war is not your responsibility to rescue them from. You've done your part. You showed up. You loved. You tried. Now your silence is you stepping out of the battlefield and choosing peace over proving a point. If this resonated with you, if you feel that shift inside where you're starting to respect your own feelings more than their ego, go to the comments and write, "My peace beats their ego." Show yourself. Show your future self. Show the world around you that you're done trying to win wars inside someone else's mind. And stay with me, because next, we're going to expose how your old reactions secretly fed their comfort and why your silence now is starving a dynamic that was never built to protect you. Number 4, how your old reactions fed their comfort. Every time you saved them from the consequences of their actions, you taught them they could hurt you for free. My friends, that one is tough to swallow, but it's honest. Before your silence, it wasn't just that they took you for granted. It's that your reactions made it easy for them to stay comfortable while you were quietly breaking. You didn't know it at the time. You thought you were loving them, supporting them, being understanding, but little by little, every time you chased, every time you over-explained, every time you sent the long message after they gave you crumbs, you were feeding a system that only starved you. Folks, imagine a vending machine. They punch a button, your name, and every time something comes out, validation, attention, comfort, a late-night reply, a long paragraph explaining your feelings, an apology for something they did. They don't have to put money in, they don't have to invest, they don't have to fix anything, they just press the button and you come through. At some point, they stop seeing you as a person and start treating you like that machine, always stocked, always ready, no cost to them. Your reactions were the snacks. Their ego was the one eating. Think about how many times this played out. They disappeared for days, and instead of letting the silence speak, you broke it. You texted, "Hey, is everything okay?" They were dry and distant, and instead of matching the energy, you leaned in harder. They were careless with your emotions, and instead of saying, "This crosses a line," you said, "Maybe I'm overreacting." You didn't do this because you're weak. You did it because no one ever taught you that love without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. You were told, if you really care, you don't give up. So you stayed, you pushed, you worked on it. But here's the harsh twist. They weren't learning, wow, this person is so loyal. They were learning, I can get away with this. Your forgiveness started feeling less like grace and more like a reset button for their bad behavior. They hurt you, you reacted, and then you cleaned it up. They never had to sit in the mess they made because you were always right there with emotional paper towels. There's a quote that says, if you keep stretching to meet them where they are, they'll never learn to stand where you deserve. That's exactly what happened. You stretched your boundaries until they snapped. You bent over backwards so many times that standing up straight felt cold or mean. They got used to the version of you who would soften whenever they hardened. They relied on the fact that after every argument, every silent treatment, every disappearing act, you'd eventually knock on their door again. Let's be real for a second. How many times did you rewrite the same story in your head? They're just stressed. They're just busy. They'll come around. Meanwhile, they were never the one losing sleep, rereading messages, wondering what they did wrong. That was you. Their comfort was being paid for with your peace. And that's not love, my friend. That's an emotional subscription where you're the one getting charged. Your old reactions gave them a cushion. They could be careless with their words, and you'd explain why it hurt instead of stepping back. They could walk away in the middle of emotional conversations, and you'd be the one reopening them later. They could treat you like an option, and you'd still show up like they were a priority. That doesn't make you foolish. It makes you someone who believed in potential more than patterns. But patterns don't lie. They were comfortable because nothing truly threatened their place in your life. They never had to wonder, what if they stopped trying? Because you never did. Until now. That's why your silence feels so dramatic to them, even if they'd never admit it. To you, it feels like you're finally doing nothing. To them, it feels like the Wi-Fi just went out in a house full of people who thought it would always work. When you stop reacting, they don't just lose your responses, they lose their favorite safety net. The cycle they depended on suddenly breaks. This is where it gets difficult for you, because you're used to being the fixer, the one who smooths things out, the one who sends the "can we talk" text after a cold patch. So when you don't, your whole body screams that something is wrong. You'll feel the itch to check on them, to check on us. You'll feel guilty for choosing silence, as if you're suddenly the bad guy. That's not guilt. That's your nervous system detoxing from a pattern where you kept abandoning yourself for connection. Here's the shift. Your silence now is not you being immature, petty, or manipulative. It's you finally refusing to feed a system where only one person gets full. You're not taking away love. You're taking away unearned access. You're not depriving them of care. You're depriving their ego of free supply. And yes, they will feel it. Even if they pretend they don't. They'll try to press the old buttons, send a half-hearted, "Hey, watch your story, drop a like," and expect the vending machine to respond. When it doesn't, that's when discomfort turns into awareness. They'll realize, maybe for the first time, that your reactions were never guaranteed. They were a privilege, and privilege, when abused, gets revoked. So instead of asking yourself, what if my silence pushes them away? Start asking, Why was my effort the only thing holding this together? Someone who truly values you doesn't need constant chasing to remember your worth. They don't need you to bleed emotionally so they can stay comfortable. They meet you, they show up, they feel the weight of your absence and decide to rise, not retreat. Right now, I want you to honor the version of you that tried, even when it hurt. But I also want you to commit to a new version of you, the one who no longer reacts just to keep someone else calm while you suffer. Go to the comments and write, "I stop feeding their comfort." Show yourself. Show your future self. Show the world around you that you're done paying for someone else's peace with your own. And stay with me. Because next we're going to talk about how your silence doesn't just starve the wrong connections, it filters out who was real and who was only there for the control. Number 5. Silence as a filter. Who crumbles, who stays? Silence doesn't just distance you from people, it reveals who was only close because noise made them comfortable. My friends, that one stings a little, doesn't it? Because deep down, you already know it's true. When you finally step into silence, it's not just about you and them taking space. It becomes a filter, a quiet, invisible test. Not a game, not manipulation, but a natural sorting process that shows you exactly who was genuinely connected to your soul and who was only attached to your access. Folks, picture this. Imagine your life as a big, beautiful house. For the longest time, your front door was wide open. People walked in and out whenever they wanted. Some came with love, some came with chaos, some came with muddy shoes and never wiped their feet. And what did you do? You kept cleaning, you kept serving, you kept saying, "It's okay, come in," even when you were exhausted. Then one day, you quietly close the door. You don't slam it, you don't lock everyone out, you just stop leaving it wide open. That simple act, that silence, is where the real sorting begins. At first, you panic. You think, what if they think I don't care? What if they move on? What if they never knock? You've been taught that love means constant availability. That being a good person means always answering, always responding, always being there, no matter how drained you are. So when you pull back, you feel guilty, like you're suddenly cold or selfish. But you're not closing the door to punish people. You're closing it to see who cares enough to knock. Here's the lie we're breaking today. If they don't chase you when you go silent, it means they never cared. Not always. Some people go quiet because they're manipulative. Others go quiet because they're confused. But silence over time will show you who is who. The ones who were only there for the attention, the drama, the comfort of knowing you were always available, they start to crumble when you stop reacting. Not emotionally for you, emotionally for themselves. They get annoyed. They start saying things like, "You've changed," or "You're acting weird," because your boundaries threaten the control they thought they had. Watch their patterns. The ones who were using your emotions as their entertainment will try small tricks first. A vague message, a random emoji, a joke. They're not coming in with, "Hey, I realized I hurt you. Can we talk?" They're coming in with, "Are you still available to feed my ego?" When your silence doesn't break for that, they get frustrated. That frustration is not love, it's entitlement losing its favorite toy. On the other hand, the people who truly had a bond with you feel your silence in a different way. They don't see it as a challenge, they feel it as a wake-up call. They may not know exactly what to say at first, but you'll notice something different in their approach. They won't just send lazy breadcrumbs, they'll check in with intention. They'll ask how you are, not just if you're still around. They'll admit if they dropped the ball. They won't make your silence about their ego. They'll see it as a sign that something deeper needs to be acknowledged. Think about it like this, my friends. Silence is a spotlight. It shines not on the version of people they want you to see, but on their true behavior when access to you is no longer effortless. Some will fade out of that light. They'll fall back, find someone else to drain, someone else to keep on standby. As painful as that is, it's also your answer. If your silence made them disappear, they were never meant to stay. They weren't investing in you as a person. They were investing in the comfort your presence provided. Others, though, will step into that spotlight and stay there. They'll be uncomfortable, but they'll show up. They'll knock at the door you finally closed and ask, "Can we talk about what happened?" They won't be perfect, but they'll be honest. Those are the ones your silence protects, not from you, but from the noisy cycle you were all stuck in. It's hard because part of you still wants to chase. You want to send that follow-up text. You want to ask, "Why haven't you tried?" You want to remind them that you exist, that you still care. But here's the truth. If your silence is enough to make someone forget you, your constant effort was never going to be enough to make them truly value you. Let that land. You weren't losing love by going quiet. You were letting illusions fall away. There's a little bit of humor in all of this too, if we're honest. You'll notice some people suddenly start acting hurt by your distance. They'll say, "Oh, now you're too busy for me?" Conveniently forgetting the times they disappeared on you like a magician at the end of a show. That's not concern. That's confusion. They're realizing the free VIP pass they had to your heart has expired, and now they don't know how to buy a real ticket. Let silence do its job. You do not need to explain your every boundary. You don't need to write a thesis on why you stopped chasing. Your behavior speaks. Your absence speaks. Your refusal to keep playing the same emotional game speaks. And the right people, those who care, who respect, who are capable of meeting you halfway, will hear it. So yes, some will crumble in the quiet you once feared. Let them. Their absence makes space. Space for people who don't need you to bleed to believe you. Space for relationships that survive not just your words, but your silence too. Space for you to finally see that your worth is not measured by how many people you keep attached to, but by how fiercely you protect your own peace. If this section is hitting something inside you, if you're noticing who went missing when you went quiet, I want you to claim this out loud in the comments. Silence filters truth. Show yourself you see it now. Show your future self you learned from it. Show the world around you that you're done begging for effort from people who only ever responded to noise. And stay with me, because next we're going to dive into what happens when regret finally shows up, not as a grand apology, but as those small tests and breadcrumbs they send once they realize your silence isn't a phase. Number 8. The real victory, not their regret, but your rebirth. The goal was never to make them suffer. The goal was to finally stop abandoning yourself. My friends, that's the truth most people miss. They get so focused on whether the other person regrets losing them, whether they're watching their stories, whether they're secretly miserable, that they forget the real story isn't happening on their side at all. It's happening on yours. The real victory isn't them lying awake at night thinking about you. The real victory is you finally sleeping in peace without needing to know. For so long, your life revolved around their reactions. A message from them could make your whole day. Their silence could ruin your whole week. Your self-worth was like a stock market chart, rising and crashing based on whether they seemed interested or distant. You didn't ask to feel that way. It just happened over time. Little by little, you handed them emotional authority they never earned. Then came the silence. At first, it didn't feel like strength. It felt like withdrawal. It felt like standing in an empty room with all the lights off, wondering if you'd just made a huge mistake. You kept asking yourself, what if they do regret it? What if they don't? What if I never hear from them again? What if I made it too easy for them to forget me? Your mind ran circles around questions that all had one thing in common. They were about them, not you. But while your mind was doing that, something deeper was starting to shift. Slowly, without a big announcement, your focus began to move. You stopped checking your phone as often. You started going through a full day without refreshing old chats. Food started tasting like food again, not just a distraction. Music didn't hurt as much. Laughing didn't feel like betrayal. Your life, one small piece at a time, started becoming about you again. There's a quote that says, "You don't heal by waiting for them to come back. You heal by coming back to yourself." That's what this whole journey has really been about. Your silence wasn't just cutting noise on the outside, it was clearing space on the inside. Space to hear your own thoughts without their voice echoing over every decision. Space to remember what you liked before you bent your whole schedule, your whole personality, your whole peace around them. Folks, imagine your heart like a house that used to have one guest who took up every room. They left clothes on the floor, dishes in the sink, mess in every corner, and you were constantly cleaning, constantly fixing, constantly explaining to yourself why it was okay. When they finally walked out and the silence hit, you didn't know what to do with all that space. It felt empty, but slowly you started picking things up. You opened windows, you let light in, you rearranged furniture, you put your favorite things back where they belonged. And one day you looked around and realized, this doesn't feel like their house anymore. It feels like yours. That's rebirth. Not some dramatic glow-up montage where you wake up one day and feel nothing for them. Rebirth is quieter than that. It looks like catching yourself mid-thought and realizing, wow, I didn't think about them all morning. It looks like hearing their name and feeling neutral. Not knives, not butterflies, just a calm recognition of a chapter that taught you a lot and cost you even more. It looks like laughing for real, not to prove you're over it, but because you actually are starting to enjoy your life again. You might still wonder, but do they regret it? And here's the thing, my friends. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Maybe they feel it late at night when their distractions fail. Maybe they feel it years from now when life finally slows down long enough for truth to catch up. But their regret is not your purpose. Their pain is not your prize. You are not healing just to become a ghost that haunts them. You're healing to become a person who no longer haunts yourself. The lie we're breaking here is simple but deep. I'll feel better when they finally realize what they lost. No, you start to feel better when you finally realize what you found, your boundaries, your value, your calm, your ability to stand alone without collapsing. Their realization is extra, yours is essential. Think about how powerful that is. There was a time when a delayed reply from them could put you in emotional hell. Now you could go days, weeks, months without a word and still be okay. That's not coldness, that's growth. That's emotional muscle. That's the quiet strength of someone who has walked through heartbreak and came out the other side holding their own hand. And yes, sometimes they will circle back. They'll send that "Hey stranger" text. They'll say they miss how things used to be. They'll talk about the good memories. But by then, something in you has changed. You don't hear those words from the same place anymore. You're not starving. You're not desperate for crumbs. You're not standing there with a half-broken heart saying, "Please just give me anything." You're steady. You're clear. You're able to ask, "Does this align with my peace?" instead of, "What if they leave again?" The real victory is when you can look at the situation, not with hatred, not with obsession, but with gratitude for what it taught you and wisdom for what you'll never accept again. When you walk differently, choose differently, love differently, starting with yourself. When your silence is no longer a weapon or a test, but simply the natural state of someone who refuses to argue with chaos. So as we close this chapter together, I want you to remember this. You didn't win because they regret losing you. You win because you stopped losing yourself trying to keep them. You win because your peace is no longer in their hands. You win because your story doesn't end with their decision, it continues with yours. If this journey has spoken to you, if you feel even a small shift inside that says, "I'm ready to choose me now," I want you to write this in the comments. I rise from this. Show yourself. Show your future self. Show the world around you that this is not just another sad chapter. It's the moment your rebirth began. And if this video helped you, if it opened your eyes, if it made you feel seen, do one thing for me, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear these words today, and subscribe so you don't walk this journey alone. Stay with me, my friends. This silence is not your ending. It's the beginning of the strongest version of you.